The sky was red above Valari 3. Smoke and fire filled the air. The ground shook every few minutes as something heavy exploded nearby. People ran in every direction, screaming, crying, or simply frozen in fear. The great cities that once shined, with green lights and floating towers, were now burning ruins. A mother held her child close as the sirens echoed again, the same sound they had heard for days. The sound meant one thing: another attack was coming. In the distance, the roar of ships pierced the sky. The Chaaral were coming again. They came from deep space, from a part of the galaxy where no one dared to look. The Chaaral were not just conquerors. They were destroyers. No one knew why they attacked Valari 3. There was nothing here but forests, oceans, and peaceful cities. But the Chaaral didn't care. They destroyed everything in their path. High above the planet, the Valari Defense Council sent message after message across the stars. They sent requests to the Galactic Union, to nearby star systems, even to planets that were not their allies. They sent recordings of the fires, the screams, the falling towers. They sent coordinates, codes, pleas for mercy. No one answered. Day after day, they waited for a reply. They thought someone would come. Anyone. But the galaxy stayed silent. On the 13th day of the siege, the Valari Grand Council gathered in the last underground base. They looked tired. Some were injured. One of them asked the question they were all thinking. Is this how it ends? Elder Yara, the leader of the council, didn't speak. She looked at the screen showing all the failed messages. Over 500. Distress calls. Not a single reply. A younger technician ran into the room with panic in his eyes. He held a small, damaged transmitter. One of the old satellites still works, he said. It has power for one last message. Yara stood up slowly. Her voice was calm but heavy. Then we send the final message. They didn't have time to write a long report or explain history. They only had time to show the truth. The technician turned on the transmitter. A camera showed a young Valari child standing in the ruins of a school. The child's clothes were burned, their face covered in ash. Behind them, the school was nothing but a skeleton of melted steel. The child looked straight into the camera. Please, the child said softly. We are dying. Please. Someone help us. The message ended with static. The satellite burned up soon after, taken by the planet's damaged orbit. On Earth, far across the stars, a signal arrived. The base was deep under the moon's surface. The humans called it Black Station 9. It was a silent place, full of machines, listening for signals from deep space. Operator Daniels was tired. He had worked 12 hours straight. He sipped cold coffee and looked at the monitors. Nothing interesting for days. Then one screen turned red. It showed a signal marked as Level 4, Old Format, Non-Union Origin. Daniels frowned. That's odd, he said to himself. He pressed a few keys. The signal opened. At first, it was just static. Then, the video began to play. The room went silent. Daniels watched the child's face. He didn't move. When the video ended, he replayed it, again, and again, and again. Then he stood up and walked straight to the emergency communication line. Commander, we need to talk. Now. 2 hours later, the signal was shown in the Earth High Command room. Generals, scientists, and leaders sat around a giant table. The video played once more. No one spoke during the message. When it ended, President Hale looked around the room. What do we know about the Chaaral? General Rivas answered. They're raiders. Burn planets, steal resources, kill everything. No diplomacy. They haven't touched us before. But that planet in the video, it's gone. Or will be very soon. Another advisor asked, why send help? We don't even know these people. President Hale didn't answer right away. She looked at the image of the child. Then she spoke. Slowly, but clearly. Because no one else will. The order was given. Prepare. The fleet. In deep space, far from Earth's view, something began to awaken. Hidden within asteroid belts and silent moons were Earth's real strength, its war armada. Thousands of ships, large and small, powered up their cores. Massive carriers, sleek destroyers, and heavy gunships opened their eyes after years of silence. Fleet Admiral Marcus Hayes stood aboard the command ship Vengeance. He had fought in Earth's darkest wars, but for the last 20 years, Earth had stayed quiet. Observing, watching, preparing. He looked out the window at the stars. "So," he whispered. Someone finally asked for help. His officers stood, at attention. Orders came quickly, coordinates locked, hyperdrives charged. In the hangar bays, human soldiers prepared for war. These weren't just any soldiers. They were trained for deep space combat. Exo-armor units, drop troopers, orbital, snipers. They were called many names by other species, nightmares, monsters, shadows. But they were human. On Valari 3, the last resistance base was discovered. The Corral sent their elite squads to finish the job. Explosions rocked the tunnels. The council members prepared for death. Elder Yara stood tall, her hand on the shoulder of a young Valari girl. "We sent our last cry," she said. "If help does not come now, it never will." The Corral breached the outer gate. The sounds of plasma and death filled the halls. And then, the sky changed. In orbit above Valari 3, a rip opened in space. 1, then 10, then hundreds of human ships tore through the black. The Corral ships in orbit turned in confusion. The command ship Vengeance sent out one message on open frequency. "This is Earth. We heard your cry." The human fleet moved like a storm. Lasers and missiles rained from the sky. The Corral ships didn't stand a chance. Their shields shattered. Their formations broke. On the ground, the Corral heard the roar of something above. Then fire. Bright, beautiful fire from the sky. Human drop pods slammed into the dirt. Armored figures stepped out, weapons glowing. They moved without fear, crushing the enemy with brutal force. The Valari watched in silence as humans destroyed the invaders. In seconds, a young Valari soldier whispered, "Are they gods?" Elder Yara shook her head, smiling with tears in her eyes. "No," she said. "They are humans." The battle for Valari 3 was not over, but everything had changed. Across the galaxy, other races received the same message. Not the one from Valari, but the one from Earth. "We heard your cry." And now, the galaxy would hear Earth's answer. The light from Earth's ships still glowed in the sky above Valari 3. People stood in silence, staring up as more vessels arrived. They looked like silver birds with glowing wings moving in perfect formation. The dark sky that once brought only fear was now filled with hope. In the ruins of what was once the capital city, the air was calm for the first time in many days. Smoke still rose from broken buildings, but the sounds of danger were gone. A strange stillness spread across the ground. Elder Yara sat on a stone bench outside a destroyed temple. Around her, children and elders rested, their faces marked by long days of fear. She held a small crystal in her hand, the last memory of her home. Her eyes lifted slowly to the ships above. "Why would they come?" asked a young boy sitting beside her. "No one else did." Yara looked at him with a gentle smile. "Because sometimes when no one answers, someone still chooses to care." Far above, aboard the lead Earthship, Admiral Hayes watched the surface through a large display. His officers stood ready beside him, waiting for instructions. There was no celebration, no cheers, just focus. The mission was not done. A message came in from one of the ground teams. The signal was shaky but clear. "People are safe. The Corral are gone for now. No sign of more ships." Admiral Hayes nodded. "Keep looking. They don't disappear without a reason." Inside one of the Earth landing ships, medical officers worked quickly. Human doctors and nurses moved carefully between rows of Valari survivors. They offered food, water, medicine. Some of the Valari flinched when the humans got close. They didn't know what to expect, but the humans were gentle. One nurse knelt beside an injured Valari girl. She held her hand and smiled softly. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. The girl looked into her eyes and slowly nodded. Outside, a group of Earth engineers began rebuilding communication systems. Their tools hummed as they repaired towers and restored power lines. Valari volunteers joined them, watching closely, learning. For the first time in days, lights began to return. That night, a small gathering formed around a campfire. Humans and Valari sat side by side, speaking in quiet tones. They shared simple stories, words translated by machines. A human soldier gave a child a small music box. The child turned the key and soft music filled the air. Above them, Earth's ships moved silently in the sky, keeping watch. But not everyone was calm. In a distant cave near the forest mountains, a hidden Valari scout watched the sky nervously. He held an old tracking device in his hand. The screen flickered, showing something strange. It wasn't one of the Earth ships, it was something else. He activated his old radio. "This is Scout Luro. I found something." Back at the Earth base, the message came through. Admiral Hayes listened closely. "Send coordinates," he said quickly. Within minutes, a small team of humans and Valari scouts moved toward the mountains. The ground was quiet. Birds flew overhead. Everything seemed normal, but when they reached the ridge, they saw it. A strange structure hidden beneath the trees. It was not built by Valari hands. Black metal, smooth curves, blinking lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was something left behind. One of the Earth officers examined it closely. "This wasn't meant to be found," she said. The structure began to hum. A soft sound at first, then louder. The trees around it shook slightly. Something inside was waking up. The team stepped back. Admiral Hayes received the report. He stood silent for a long moment, then spoke calmly. "We're not just dealing with an attack. We're dealing with a plan." He ordered the area to be surrounded. No one would go near it until they understood what it was. Meanwhile, Elder Yara met with Admiral Hayes inside a small meeting tent. The air was tense. She bowed slightly before speaking. "You came when no one else did," she said. "We don't understand why." Admiral Hayes sat across from her, his face steady. "We heard your message. It reminded us of something we once felt." Yara tilted her head. "Felt?" He looked away for a moment, as if seeing something long forgotten. "There was a time when Earth called for help. No one came for us either. We survived. We grew stronger, but we never forgot." Yara's voice was quiet. "So you came because you remembered your own pain?" He nodded. "Yes, and because we swore no one else would be left alone." The moment was quiet between them. A deep understanding passed without more words. That night, more human equipment arrived. Floating platforms brought supplies, tents, lights, and tools. The Valari helped set them up. Together, they built shelters that could stand strong winds. They cooked simple meals. They made beds for the old and weak. In one tent, a group of children drew pictures with old pieces of chalk. A human officer knelt beside them and smiled. One of the children handed him a drawing of the Earthship flying over Valari. The human held it carefully, then placed it in his jacket. But even as hope returned, the strange structure in the forest continued to pulse. Deep underground, lights blinked faster. Something ancient had been touched. And somewhere far beyond the galaxy's edge, a signal was received. A new presence stirred in the dark. Earth had shown its power. Now, something else was listening. A soft humming sound echoed beneath the ground. It was slow, steady, like a heartbeat buried in stone. Lights from the strange structure hidden in the forest flickered in a pattern that no one could understand. The trees around it remained still, but something deep inside had begun to awaken. Back at the temporary base, the mood had changed. The people of Valari were starting to smile again, even if only for short moments. Children played under the watch of Earth soldiers, and meals were shared between humans and aliens who had once been strangers. The sky no longer felt heavy, but not everyone felt at peace. Admiral Hayes stood in the command tent staring at the data on his screen. The structure had been scanned from the air, and the results were troubling. It wasn't just a building. It wasn't just a leftover object. It was something much older, something buried long before the Volari people ever settled this world. The scan showed tunnels running deep into the ground, levels upon levels of unknown technology, and at the center, an energy source that pulsed, without explanation. It did not match the power systems of the enemy ships that had attacked Volari. "Sir, this place might not be part of the attackers' plan," said Lieutenant Reza. "It could be something else entirely, or it could be what brought them here in the first place," Hayes replied quietly. At the same time, Scout Luro returned from the forest with a strange item in hand. It was a small disc, smooth and dark, like polished stone. No symbols, no markings. Yet it gave off a warm pulse in his palm. He handed it to one of the human scientists, who took it carefully with gloves. "It was sitting near the structure, half buried," Luro said. "It didn't seem broken. It felt like it was waiting." The scientist placed it on a scanner. Within seconds, the disc began to change color, glowing faint blue. Then, out of nowhere, a faint sound played from it, a recording, old and distorted. A language no one recognized filled the air, soft and echoing. Everyone in the room fell silent. A translator program ran the signal again and again, but no clear message could be found. Whatever this was, it wasn't from Earth, and it wasn't from the Volari system either. Admiral Hayes called for a small group of scientists, engineers, and trusted Volari to join him at the edge of the forest. They walked carefully through the trees, stepping around roots and rocks until they reached the strange structure once more. The entrance remained closed, a single smooth surface of metal without cracks or lines. But the lights were blinking faster now, like something inside had noticed them. Elder Yara arrived soon after. She placed her hand gently on the surface and whispered a word from her old language. The metal warmed under her touch. Then, with a deep vibration, the wall began to open. No sound, no force, just a silent parting of the surface, revealing a narrow hallway inside. It was dim, filled with soft blue light. The air was still and cool. No one spoke. "Proceed with care," Admiral Hayes said calmly. "No sudden moves." As they entered, the walls seemed to respond. Lights moved with them, growing brighter as they passed. The floor was smooth like glass but warm underfoot. Strange shapes floated inside the walls, symbols that glowed briefly and then faded away. Deeper inside, they found a chamber filled with tall glass columns. Each one held a glowing object, shaped like stars, orbits, and crystals. They floated, in place, turning slowly, humming in quiet harmony. The human scientists were stunned. "This isn't a weapon," one of them whispered. "It's a map." The columns showed systems, galaxies, even regions of space unknown to Earth. Some were marked with blue lights, some with red. One column showed the Volari system, marked in green. Then another symbol appeared, a triangle inside a circle. It flashed over and over, pulsing from the deepest part of the chamber. Back at the surface, the same symbol began to appear on every human ship and screen. Equipment picked up a strange signal, one that Earth tech had never seen before. It wasn't harmful, but it was persistent, like a knock at a locked door. Admiral Hayes turned to Elder Yara. "Is this something from your history?" Yara shook her head. "We have legends of lights in the sky, but nothing like this." The ground began to tremble softly, not with danger, but with motion. The signal had reached something. Far beyond the stars, an old listening post blinked for the first time in ages. Its system slowly came online, and a signal was sent outward, to places not yet known. In orbit, Earth's long-range ship picked up a return message. It came from somewhere beyond mapped space. A simple sound, a tone, like a greeting, or a warning. Hayes ordered it recorded and sent to Earth Command. The message traveled across space, leaving many unanswered questions behind. As night fell again, on Volari, people gathered under the stars, Fires burned gently, and soft songs were sung by both Valari and humans. Stories were told, laughter returned, and for a few hours, it felt like peace. But high above them, new stars moved. They were not part of the known sky. Something else was coming, not with anger, not with haste, but with purpose. Earth had answered the cry for help. Now the galaxy had begun to answer back. The stars were no longer silent. Above Valari 3, a soft shimmer crossed the sky like a wave of light moving through water. It was not visible to the naked eye at first, but every Earth sensor picked it up. The readings were strange. No heat, no radiation, no threat. Just presence. Something had noticed them. Deep inside the ancient chamber, the columns still pulsed with light. The glowing objects inside spun in new patterns. Symbols appeared that no one had seen before. Some were elegant, curved like flowing water. Others were sharp, forming shapes that twisted slowly. The team of human scientists and Valari scholars studied the changes closely. Each movement seemed to connect with a signal from above, as if the structure and the stars were having a quiet conversation that no one could fully understand. Admiral Hayes watched from the command tent, his mind turning over every detail. He had seen many missions, traveled across many worlds, but this one felt different. It was not a rescue anymore. It was a message, a story unfolding in silence. Back in the forest, the structure had begun to grow warmer. Not hot, just alive. The floors gently vibrated under the explorers' feet. New corridors had opened, leading to rooms filled with strange tools and crystal panels. Some displayed images that shifted when touched. Others played soft sounds, like wind or waves. A small device floated gently in one chamber, slowly turning in the air. When a human engineer approached, it lowered itself into their hand. It hummed softly, then projected an image of a tall being, elegant, with long limbs and shining eyes. It was not human. It was not Valari. It was something else, something older. The image moved its hands slowly, forming shapes. The humans watched in silence as the symbols changed, then finally settled on one shape, a circle with 3 lines across it, the same symbol that had appeared across Earth's ships. The engineer recorded everything and sent it to the fleet above. Meanwhile, Elder Yara stood near the entrance, feeling the air shift. "This place is not just remembering," she whispered. "It is waiting." "Waiting for what?" asked Scout Luro, standing beside her. She closed her eyes for a moment, for someone to understand. Later that day, the lights above Valari dimmed for a few minutes. It was not a power failure. It was not a storm. The stars themselves faded, as if wrapped in a curtain of shadow. Then, slowly, a new light appeared. In the sky, it was soft, not bright, pale blue, moving gently across the stars. The long-range scanners of Earth's ships confirmed it was not a natural object. It was something moving at an impossible speed. Too smooth to be a ship, too controlled to be space debris. It stopped just outside the known edge of Valari's system. Admiral Hayes called his officers into the strategy room. The display showed the object waiting at the edge of space. No messages, no signs of contact, just stillness. "Is it watching?" asked Lieutenant Reza. "Maybe," Hayes replied. "Or maybe it's listening." The human ships held position. No one moved toward the object. Instead, they sent a gentle signal. A simple tone, the same tone that had come from the ancient chamber. It traveled slowly, like a whisper through the stars. Hours passed. Then, a response came. Not in words, not in language, but in vision. Every screen aboard the Earth ships flickered. Every sensor, every panel, every tablet flashed for a moment, showing the same image. A garden of stars. Worlds blooming like flowers. Shapes rising and falling. And at the center, a dark space surrounded by light. Then, the image vanished. On the ground, the ancient structure responded instantly. New symbols lit up along the walls. A soft melody played, unlike any song heard before. It was calm, like the sound of rain falling on stone. The chamber glowed, and the floating device projected. Another image, this time it showed a path, a trail of stars leading from Valari to the outer edge of the galaxy. A route, a message. "They're not coming to harm," whispered one of the Valari scholars. "They're asking us to come." Back in the tent, Hayes and Yara stood together, again. Between them lay a table filled with images, notes, and symbols they still couldn't explain. "What do you make of this?" Hayes asked. Yara looked at the drawing slowly. "It's a doorway," she said. "One we didn't know existed." "Do we step through it?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she touched the small music box a human child had given her days before. It still played its soft tune when opened. "Long ago we sent out a message asking for help," she said. "We never thought anyone would hear it. But Earth did." She turned toward the screen, showing the strange object waiting in space. Maybe this is their way of answering back. Not just Earth, but the stars themselves. That night, lights from Earth's ships shone softly above Valari 3. The Valari people, once filled with fear and silence, now looked upward with eyes full of wonder. Children pointed to the sky. Elders told stories that blended truth and dream. In orbit, the unknown object still waited. It made no move. It made no threat. But the message was clear. Something ancient had been awakened, and something greater had begun. The galaxy, once so distant and silent, was opening its eyes, and Earth, along with Valari, was no longer standing alone in the dark. The air was thick with quiet expectation. Across the stars, a new kind of silence had taken hold. Not the emptiness of space, but the pause before something remarkable. On Valari 3, the ancient structure continued to hum softly, its walls alive with shifting light and subtle sound. Inside, the team moved carefully, sensing that each step might unlock another secret. The glowing columns still turned slowly, marking time in a way no one could fully grasp. Admiral Hayes studied the data streaming from the long-range sensors. The strange object in orbit had not moved. It lingered like a patient watcher waiting for a sign, a step forward. The Earth fleet had sent messages of peace and curiosity, yet the answer remained silent except for the visions and melodies that had come before. Back on the ground, Elder Yara gathered a small group of Valari leaders and Earth scientists. The ancient symbols that had appeared were now clearer, almost like a language not spoken but felt. It spoke of unity, of a journey, of something greater than any one species. "We stand at the edge of a new path," Yara said softly. "One that has been hidden for ages, waiting for those who would listen." A young Valari named Mira stepped forward. Her eyes shone with hope. "What must we do?" Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them trembled again, not harshly, but as if the planet itself breathed. A soft wind stirred the leaves outside, carrying a scent no one recognized. It was sweet and fresh, like rain on dry earth. The humming from the structure grew louder, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the beating hearts of those inside. Suddenly a panel slid open to reveal a small chamber filled with light. At its center was a device, no larger than a child's hand, glowing with soft, warm colors. It seemed to call to them. Admiral Hayes reached out and touched it gently. The moment his fingers met the surface, a wave of images and feelings swept through the room. They saw worlds blooming with life, oceans, forests, deserts glowing with strange flowers. They felt the warmth of distant suns, the pulse of galaxies swirling in quiet dance. Most of all, they felt connection, a thread weaving through every being, every star. The device showed a path, not just in space, but in time. It hinted at journeys yet to come, challenges yet to face, and alliances yet to form. One image stayed with them the longest, a vision of Earth and Valari standing side by side, surrounded by many other beings, sharing light and knowledge. "This is hope," Yara said, "a promise that no one is truly alone." The scientists began working to understand the device. It was unlike anything Earth or Valari had ever seen, a mixture of technology and something almost spiritual. Meanwhile, on the ships above, crews watched the sky. They shared stories of their own worlds, of struggles and dreams, finding new respect for each other. In quiet moments, they looked toward the waiting object and wondered what lay beyond. Was it a gateway? A friend? A challenge? No one knew. But they understood one thing clearly. This was just the beginning. As night fell over Valari 3, the two races gathered once more under the stars. Children pointed upward, dreaming of what might come. Elders sang songs of old, weaving memories with hope. Above, the stars shone brighter than before, as if encouraging the fragile new bond forming below. The galaxy was waking up, and Earth's greatest journey was about to begin. The quiet that had settled over Valari 3 was filled with a new kind of energy, one that hummed softly like a secret waiting to be told. The ancient structure had become a beacon, its soft light reaching out into the darkness of space, calling across the vast distances between stars. Admiral Hayes stood on the observation deck of the flagship, looking out into the deep black. The strange object was still there, hovering just beyond the edge of Valari's system. It had not moved. It had not made contact. Yet the presence was undeniable. It was watching, waiting. The team had spent weeks studying the glowing device they had found in the structure. It was a map, but also a guide, showing not just places but possibilities, paths through space that no ship had ever traveled. It was a gift or a challenge depending on how it was seen. Elder Yara stood beside Hayes, her eyes reflecting the stars. "We are being invited," she said softly. "Not just to explore new worlds, but to understand ourselves in a larger story." The fleet prepared for the journey. It was unlike any mission before. Not a battle, not a rescue, but a step into the unknown with hope and caution. Scientists, explorers, and diplomats worked together to ready the ships, learning from each other's knowledge and cultures. On Valari 3, the people watched with a mix of excitement and fear. Children asked questions about the stars, and elders shared stories of their ancestors' journeys and dreams. The bond between Earth and Valari had grown strong, a symbol of unity in a galaxy that was just beginning to open up. As the fleet's engines powered up, a gentle pulse of light radiated from the ancient structure. It was as if the planet itself was saying goodbye, or maybe good luck. The strange object in orbit responded. It shifted slowly, revealing a smooth surface dotted with glowing patterns. A doorway, opening without sound. The fleet's sensors picked up a safe path through it, a corridor leading far beyond any known space. Admiral Hayes gave the command. The ships moved forward, passing through the gateway with steady precision. The stars outside stretched and warped, light bending in ways that defied understanding. Inside, the fleet entered a realm of wonder. Nebulas glowed with colors beyond imagination. Worlds spun in silent beauty, untouched by war or hunger. It was a place of peace, possibility, and new beginnings. The device's guidance continued, showing paths to meet others who had also heard the call, civilizations waiting to share knowledge, stories, and friendship. With every jump, the fleet grew closer to a larger truth, that the galaxy was not a place of loneliness or fear, but a web of connections waiting to be discovered. Back on Valari 3, the people celebrated the journey with song and dance. The fear of the past was replaced with hope for the future. Earth and Valari were no longer isolated worlds, but part of something greater, a community of stars. Admiral Hayes and Elder Yara shared a quiet moment before the ships disappeared, into the light of the next jump. "This is only the beginning," Yara said. Hayes nodded, his eyes shining with the same hope he saw in every member of the fleet. Together, they stepped into the unknown, not as strangers, but as friends, explorers, and dreamers. The galaxy awaited, and Earth had finally answered the call.